Hi, I'm Karin Lips from the Network of Enlightened Women. Today I'm joined by Elizabeth Anne Bellamy. I'm excited to have her on to talk about an important issue that we've been working on. Elizabeth Anne and I went to the University of Virginia Law School together. Elizabeth Anne, welcome. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Karin. Good to be here.
So tell us about your background and let's share with our students your career path after graduating from UVA Law School.
Well, as you know, we both started there in 2009. And then after I graduated law school, I went to Texas and I clerked for a federal district judge for 2 years. And then I went to work for one of your national firms in downtown Houston. And then after my first son was born, I took some time off to be with him. And then along came a second son a couple of years later. And then about the time he became a toddler, I was ready to jump back into the workforce, but on a part-time basis. So I could still be available to take them to school and pick them up and be the mom and be around like I wanted to. And so then after he was a toddler, my second one, I worked part-time. And a couple of years later, things transpired with my family that we wanted to move from Texas back to Virginia, where my husband and I are both from. So we are from southwestern Virginia. We moved to the Bristol area. And Bristol, as some folks might know, it lies just between Virginia and Tennessee. So I started to embark on getting licensed in Virginia, and I had to take the Virginia bar exam just based on timing. And then I discovered that I couldn't waive into Tennessee based on my number of years. And Tennessee wouldn't even consider part of my part-time work when considering whether I could waive in there.
So Elizabeth Anne, so our viewers understand this issue. To be licensed to practice law, it's all regulated by the state.
It's all regulated by the state. Now, Virginia requires 3 of 5. You have to practice 3 of the most recent 5 years. Well, my situation, I had just been back to work for 2 years. So that's why I had to take the Virginia bar exam. But by the time I applied for Tennessee, I had been working part-time for 3 of the last 5 years, but very hard before the kids were born. Full-time, very hard before then.
So it's interesting. Some states don't allow you to waive in at all. You've got to take the bar exam. So for example, California or Florida. But the issue here is among the states that say they're going to recognize that somebody who's been practicing law, taken a bar exam, gone to law school, and a few other requirements, they're going to let them waive in without taking the bar exam. There's a few states that have a requirement to be eligible to be considered for that. You have to be working full time.
Yes.
You in Tennessee, right?
Tennessee is one of those. Of the states that allow people to waive in, only a handful require you to have worked full-time for a certain number of years preceding your application.
And you brought this issue to me because it seems very unfair, right? Like you made the choice to reduce your hours. And our argument is it doesn't make you less competent as an attorney when you make your own decision to reduce your hours. So tell us about the process when you learned this was the rule in Tennessee. What did you do?
Well, first of all, I was disappointed, so I researched the rules, and Tennessee will allow some people to who have recently taken a bar exam to just port their score, and they say, well, you're a recent examinee, and you come. And there are, as of 2022, I think approximately 38 states, but in the District of Columbia, if you take a uniform bar exam, like Tennessee's, you can just port your score and then you go. And I thought, well, I just taken Virginia's bar exam, so it's not a UBE exam, but I've recently passed one. And you add on top of that I had also practiced full time for a number of years right before my children were born, and then practiced part-time. I'm definitely more experienced than any of these recent examinees from other states. I was sort of a square peg trying to fit into 2 little round holes. And I said, well, I'm right in between there. Why don't you look at my experience, look at me holistically, and I believe that I should be eligible for admission without having to sit for another bar exam. And I petitioned, and Tennessee said no.
So what did that mean? What did you have to do over the
Well, that meant that I had to study for a 3rd bar exam, But this time I was working part-time again, still trying to pick my kids up. My children are young. They were kindergarten and second grade that year. So it was a lot of work. And because I did not have the number of hours per day to study as someone would right out of law school without any other people to take care of, I started studying several months ahead of time, because when you don't have 8 hours a day, you have to expand your study period. So probably January is when I started. So I would go to work, get the kids, make dinner, put them to bed, and then study. And it was hard.
That's intense.
And it didn't make me a better lawyer, because I'd already done all this. And
in Tennessee, you told me the Tennessee exam doesn't even test Tennessee law.
No, it doesn't. It's a UBE exam. So the uniform bar exams just test general law. Lots of the states have their own ways to incorporate their Tennessee law, their state-specific law. A lot of them, like Tennessee, have a separate course, sort of like a CLE you sit down for afterwards, and you get sort of 6 hours of here's how Tennessee is different. But as far as studying for the exam, no, I did not have to study for any Tennessee specific law or demonstrate that I knew any Tennessee specific law.
So it's one of these that appears to have no compelling benefit for the state, yet it's just a rule that they've got out there.
It's a rule they've got out there. And I think probably no one had thought to change it, because I didn't see any benefit for me to taking it, because I did not have to learn any Tennessee law to take it. And it didn't show Tennessee that it made me a better Tennessee lawyer.
Yeah, but it's one of these that's been on the books for years. So this year we filed a petition with the Supreme Court of Tennessee to try to get this rule changed. Of the 42 states that allow reciprocity, we did the research and found that only 5 of them have this full-time requirement. So we're optimistic that the Supreme Court of Tennessee is going to make a change here, aren't we?
We are. I am. I hope so. And I think it just makes sense, because you see more and more law firms allowing part-time associates and lawyers these days. There is a demand for it as people try to figure out what's the best balance for them between work and family.
Well, and I think this is a great issue, because it's one of these rules that's been on the books for years and years. And I would imagine there's a lot of people that had the same experience you did, but then after they took their law exam, their bar exam, they were just exhausted and got on with life and sort of moved on, right? So you working on this issue now, it's not going to give you that time back with your family.
No, it won't, but I'm hoping it will give some other people time that they can just wave in, be more efficient, and take care of the whole needs of their family and their job.
Yes, and so I think it's great that you're working on this issue for the next generation of women that come, that you found this hole that needs to be fixed, because it does seem like it's not really addressing all the cases that are out there the way the Tennessee rules are written right now.
No, and of course, whenever I run into something like this, I am a member of some women's lawyers groups, and I reached out and I found out that I was not alone, that it had either other people had to go through studying for another bar exam, even though that they were very qualified, or in other cases, people just said, it's not happening. I won't be licensed in Tennessee because I just don't have the time or energy to do all of this at the same time.
So what do you hope the Tennessee Supreme Court will do?
I hope they'll adopt the model rule, because that's what we learned in our state survey, that most of the states have done. That there are slight variations, but generally speaking, the model rule seems to be where most of the states are going.
Yeah, and the model rule does not have an hours requirement. It does not have a full-time work requirement. So it gives more flexibility to women, for example, especially, and moms, as another example, who decide to reduce their hours for caretaking responsibilities, right?
Correct.
So this is great, Elizabeth Anne. Thanks so much for being with us and for sharing your story. I think it's an important example about how, you could have just gone on with your life, but you raised this issue, you're trying to get it changed. And I think that's so important and such a great model for our students who want to be leaders in their communities, want to be leaders in their schools, is that when you find something out there that you think is unfair or needs to be changed, to take on the work and try to get it changed. Even if it won't impact you, it'll help the next generation behind you. So
thank you to New, because without New, I don't think it would have happened, because if it was just me alone trying to balance all this, I don't think I would have taken that next step. But having New team up with me and to help balance the work to advance this petition, I really appreciate it. And I'm hopeful that our petition will be approved by the Supreme Court and that the rule will be amended.
Yes, me too. Well, thank you so much for being with us.